What's up, everyone? Enemy here. So today, President Trump was out campaigning. One of his stops was Atlanta, Georgia, and this is where he unveiled the Platinum Plan. And this is specifically geared towards Black Americans, and not minorities, not BIPOC, not people of color, but specifically Black Americans. So here we go. The Platinum Plan, President Trump's pillars. Now this is classic Trump, because this is like the exact style that he had in 2016 when he was running. In the beginning, he lay out a brief introduction, and then the second part, it's a little bit of summary of what he plans to do, and then it gets more in depth in the third part, of course. And then once he was elected, and you can find this on the GOP's website, it really gets intense as far as the detail is concerned. So this is classic Trump. It's not like the Democrats where it's all vague and it sounds cliche for the most part. It's non-specific, and that's just the Democrats, fault, because they have so many bases that they're trying to reach and so many groups that they have to be vague, because to be specific about each and every specific group, I mean, the paperwork you'd have to go through would be this thick, but anyway, just getting into the plan. So the first part is, of course, it's opportunity, security, prosperity, and fairness. So he has a red check mark by each one of those, basically meaning, I promised this in 2016, which he did, and he checked those off. So now it's getting more specific, and it says President Trump's promise to Black Americans over 4 years. So this is where it gets kind of deep for Black Americans. If you're not, if you haven't been following politics, because I know that there are going to be some people that criticize this and say, "Oh, well, this is not enough. It needs to be more." But this is where it gets specific. You have to read in between the lines. Then you have to understand the way Trump thinks. And if you've only gotten your news about Trump, or if you've only watched Trump through news clippings and you've never watched the rallies, you've never watched his hour and a half, sometimes 2 hour press briefings, you'll be lost. You'll think that this is just it. And this is by no means it. In business, you make an offer, and it's up to the person that you're making an offer to, if they don't like it, to make a counter offer. So we're going to start out with some pretty large numbers, but not large in the sense that it's going to it's going to be an incredible shrinkage of the wealth gap. Plus, you have to understand that there are Black Americans, or Native Blacks. That's why I call myself a Black American. So you have Native Blacks, and when I say Native Blacks, I mean Blacks who have slave ancestry. Okay, and then you have the immigrant Black population, which is thrown into, because most of them come from Africa, and if they don't, if they come from Barbados or Jamaica, they'll have African ancestry, but not necessarily American Black ancestry, because in the United States, Black Americans in the United States are specific in the fact that they have all of their history, or all of our history was stripped away. Whereas you have people in Brazil, Jamaica, they knew the tribes. They were allowed to keep, the tribes and, stuff like that. And so they have that connection, right? So you have two different communities that this is geared towards. Okay, so it's geared towards both the African American community as well as the black community. Okay, so you have to understand this. This is over the next 4 years. So this is what Trump is promising. Look, this is what I'll get you over the next 4 years. Now, this is going to be his second term. So once his term is up, it's up to black Americans and specifically ADOS to say, hey, look, now we need something specifically for ADOS. Okay, because the African Americans got in on this Trump thing, but now we showed our support for Trump, and now that you see we won, we put Trump in office, and our vote counts. We're willing, he made us a promise, we accepted the promise, he did what he had to do, we did what we had to do. Now the next candidate, this is where you get more specific, because you're going to have immigrant blacks, because in 4 years I guarantee you that ADOS is going to make itself known. So you're going to have specifically native born blacks or ADOS blacks. They're going to jump out in front and be like, hey, look, now we need something specifically for ADOS. And that's what we want specifically for us to the next candidate. And ADOS is the majority of blacks in this country. ADOS represents about 85%, 70 to 85% of the African American, black American population in this country is ADOS. And they're going to ask for the lion's share. They're going to say, look, when it comes to funding and money and all that, it's got to be geared towards the black community, the native black community, because that's who's suffering the most. When immigrant blacks come over here, they have a culture that has largely not been touched by the Democrat Party. And when I say that, I mean intact families, strong emphasis on schooling. See, that's been destroyed over the years through Jim Crow and other nefarious policies by the Democrat Party. You see what I'm saying? So this is what you have to understand, that this is what Trump is promising. So if you're looking at it as, oh, well, we're going to get this and that's it, you know what I mean? That's not enough. That's small money. No, that's a lot of money for over the course of 4 years. $500 billion, that's $1 trillion, that's half of $1 trillion over the course of 4 years. You see what I'm saying? So when you get deeper, after the 2020 election, now you got the 2024 election coming up. Whoever is the Republican then, they're going to have to make a deal with black Americans. They're going to have to continue that torch. And if they don't, well, the Democrats will find out that after this election, if the blacks accept this, the Democrats will find out after this election that, they need to come on with it. No more games. You see what I'm saying? So this is how you do business. You know what I mean? You don't give people $2-3 trillion and promise to do that, and then at the end of the day, you got maybe 10 or 15 of that vote. You know what I mean? Blacks need to give at least 35% of their vote. Not to get this, because he's going to do it regardless if he's in office. That's what the promise is. If he's in office, he's going to do this. But for 2024, the next candidate ain't gonna be a Trump. You see what I'm saying? And so blacks need to get their shit together and say and stop with this foolishness and this silly shit. I'm not gonna vote for nobody. I don't like Trump or Biden, so I'm not gonna vote for nobody. So let's get into this plan, you know what I mean, real quick. So President Trump's promise to black America over 4 years: increase access to capital in black communities by almost $500 billion. Okay, so that's $500 billion. 3 million new jobs for the black community, creating 500,000 new black-owned businesses. That's 500,000 new black-owned businesses over 4 years. Increase access to capital in black communities by almost $500 billion. I already said that. Safe urban neighborhoods with the highest policing standards. So he's going to increase the standards of policing. Bring road cops and bad cops to justice and make an example out of their ass. Guarantee you that. Commit to working on Second Step Act, because he's already unveiled the First Step Act is already done. So now he's talking about more criminal justice reform, the Second Step Act. Access to better education and job training opportunities. All right. Give black churches the ability to compete for federal resources for their community. So this is taking the power out of the state and out of the city's hands for black churches in the community, and it's putting the power. So instead of the same thing with the HBCUs, see, the HBCUs used to have to go to the White House and ask for money because they couldn't get it from the states. Because in the beginning they would relying on that. They were relying on the cities and the states, and a lot of these states was like, we're not giving you no fucking money. So they started going to the White House. Now, with this, it's basically saying that the black churches now they go straight to the feds. They're like, fuck the states. If the Democrats want to have those strongholds on those cities, and they do. And those Democrats, what they do is they'll pay these pastors to tell the congregation to vote Democrat. You know what I'm saying? And when these pastors have these ideas and stuff, if it don't go with the Democrat ideology, then the pastor don't get no money. So this is allowing pastors to have more power in the black communities, as well as it's empowering pastors in churches in the black community. And so I know there are a lot of people like, oh, churches, you got bad churches. But see, this is the reason why we have churches. This is why there is freedom of religion in this country. It's because it's not supposed to be a socialist country. It's not supposed to be charity through the government. It's supposed to be charity through your community organizations as well as your churches. You see what I'm saying? That's the way it's set up. That's why you have the 501c3s not have to pay taxes. That's why because they're non-profits. That's why churches don't pay taxes, because they're non-profit. And because they don't pay taxes, they are allowed to both accept donations. And so is it donations for the pastors? No, it's actually donations for the community and helping the community out. So when you want a civic center or a community center, now the pastors can go straight to the federal government and say we need resources in this community to create a park, but it's by the church. It's not by some politician. You see what I'm saying? So I know that I went into that detail, but I just felt like I needed to stop on that. Bring better and tailored healthcare to address historic disparities. And that's true. Black communities do have disparities in healthcare. So I know that the Obama administration started that with the health, the healthy food programs in black communities. So this is trying to one up Obama, and if it's Trump style, he's going to one up Obama on by far. Immigration policy that protects American jobs. Okay, so once again, and I hit on this in one of my things, about the immigration, the border walls and stuff that he done. That you see that in the black communities, there are more jobs. So now he's going into the immigration policy, and I guarantee you that one of the things that he's going to address is the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, or not birthright citizenship. Yeah, it's the birthright citizenship, the naturalization clause. He's going to address that 14th Amendment. That was to enfranchise freed slaves. It wasn't to enfranchise everybody. But so many immigrants come in and they leapfrog over native blacks. They come over to this country. They already pregnant. A lot of the women, it's called anchor babies. They're already pregnant. They have a child, but because they have the child, now the child is automatically an American citizen, right? And so that citizen already gets benefits of the full benefits of being a citizen. Now the mom, she can stay here because she's tied to the child. They don't want to separate the child from the mother, so the mother's here, and that child can bring its family, its immediate family, and its extended family to the United States, because that child is a citizen. So that's why it's called an anchor baby. So once you get that baby anchored into the country, the baby can draw out and pull the rest of his family into the country, and they can bring their wealth and everything else into this country, and boom, they ain't had to go through Jim Crow, they ain't had to go through slavery, they ain't had to go through racism, none of that shit. So this is what that is addressing. Advanced home ownership opportunities and enhanced financial literacy in the black community. Okay, so he's going to, advance financial literacy. Okay, so this is going to make a new wave of black Americans fiscally conservative, because once they learn financial literacy, they ain't gonna be fucking going broke like a lot of these athletes and these rappers and musicians. You know what I mean? They're gonna be financially lit, so they're gonna be able to compete, like Master P did when he got rich. When he got so rich, he was financially lit. Yeah, he was a dope dealer, but he was still financially literate. So this is a big thing. This is not just pumping money into the community and then you don't know how to fucking spend it. You see what I'm saying? So this is important. This is how you build a foundation, and this is what this platinum promise is. It's the foundation. Now I guarantee you, I'm not going to guarantee, but I can almost bet in 2024, the next Republican, if Trump is in office, the next Republican is going to say the diamond package. You know what I'm saying? This is the platinum. He didn't start off with gold. You didn't start off with silver. You didn't start off with copper. You went straight to platinum. The next one would be diamond. All right. This is how this man's mind thinks. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so the last one is onshoring manufacturing to advance jobs and development opportunities for black-owned business. So that means that all these jobs that have went to Mexico and China, is trying to bring those jobs back and put them into the black community specifically. You know, history has already shown that the white community don't want to do these jobs. You know what I mean? And the Hispanic community will do the jobs, but these jobs should also be for black Americans. You know what I mean? As well. The K1 visa people that come over here and then they get naturalized and everything, those people are coming over here on a merit-based system, so they're already coming into the country on, you know, $80,000 to $120,000 of income a year. So they're not going to do these manufacturing jobs. So these are jobs that people that coming straight out of high school can get right into the workforce, learn a trade, as well as you know, they can start to learn how to work and learn responsibility and everything else. So this is a bill thing. So, you know, I'm liking this. I like this approach, you know, because if he comes out with $2 trillion, and it's going to sound phony, it's going to sound fraud, it's going to sound like he's trying to buy votes, it's going to sound insecure, you know what I mean? It's going to sound cliche. But this is how you build wealth. You know, when people talk about white privilege and all that, this is how you build wealth. You know, you have to educate people, and give them money at the same time, but you have to educate them so they won't blow that money and blow that opportunity. And then 10, 15 years down the line, you got riots. People say, oh, we ain't got nothing. There wasn't enough. And you just gave it. You see what I'm saying? You have to teach people. And from a business, you know, from a business owner's perspective, I've done that, and I've seen it firsthand how it, you know, how impactful it is and how it works. Okay, so now getting into the other part of it, this is getting more in depth, and I'm not going to read everything, but I'll read the titles. Okay, so you have black economic empowerment and access to capital. So it's jobs, right? Reach even greater levels of historic unemployment and wage growth for the black community, and set in 2019, so that anyone looking for a job gets one. And it's going more in depth under everything. Better and cheaper healthcare. So he's cheapening the healthcare. It's going to be better healthcare, and it's probably going to be something like opportunity zones. Opportunity would be in charge of your own healthcare and choose your own doctor. Eliminate long-standing healthcare disparities. Investment into causes and cures and kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, sickle cell disease, maternal mortality, and other diseases that disproportionately affect African American populations. Increase access to telemedicine and innovative technologies to empower patient with flexibility and tools for better health. Public and private partnership to develop healthcare facilities in low income. See, and public and private partnership to develop healthcare facilities in low income areas. So that's like, you know, that's like an opportunity zone, but it's for the healthcare. You know what I'm saying? So I knew it was coming. I hadn't read all this. I read parts of it, but I didn't read that part specifically. I'm gonna jump into the other side. Okay, fueling access to capital for black-owned businesses. And it's this pushing business. If you see this, if you look at this, it keeps emphasizing business. Yeah, there's some shit about education, but this is mostly business. Because if you create a business owner, chances are they're not gonna go work for nobody else. And those are the type of people, business owners are the type of people that don't complain about white supremacy. Because they're empowered. Because they like, shit, how can this dude that's working at McDonald's or fucking Walmart, um, yeah, he might call me the N word, or he might call me a coon or whatever. But look at this guy. Like it's like, you know, it's like somebody that's making, you know, $40,000 calling LeBron James a nigga. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, dude is a multi-millionaire. It's like calling Jay-Z the N-word. He gonna laugh at that. He's not fit to punch you, you know, unless he just feels, you know, like it, you know, like sue me. But he's fiscally smart. He's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth punching this dude, because at the end of the day, he gonna win. You know, I'm gonna punch him. He gonna win, you know, $5-6 million lawsuit. It's not worth it. So he just gonna laugh. See what I'm saying? So that's how you destroy, you know, that white privilege and stuff. So it putting money for blacks to open up businesses in their communities so they can do business, so blacks can do business with other blacks. And that's been the bane of the black community. When you talk about Black Wall Street, you're not talking about black schools. You know what I'm saying? You're not talking about, for the most part, black churches. You're not talking about, you know, black parks. You're talking, it was Black Wall Street, black businesses. And this is what this is constantly pushing. Black businesses learn how to be business smart. That's what it's pushing more than anything else. Okay? Safety and justice. Okay? So continue to make historic improvements to the criminal justice system through common sense action like the First Step Act, including increased use of drug rehabilitation versus drug incarceration. Announce a national clemency program to unite families and invest in human potential, focusing on wrongful prosecution and rehabilitation. Restore safety to American great cities by working with police departments, community leaders, and mental health professionals to install the most responsible, professional, and accountable models of policing, including diversity training and accreditation standards. And he said diversity training. Now, this is one thing that the left lied about a few weeks ago when he ended the critical race theory. You know, that critical race theory thing is, you know, and I read it. It's almost like Marxist. I know people don't want to hear this shit, but I've studied Marx. I've studied Marx and I've studied Lenin, and like, you have to have read their shit to understand it. It's almost like a forcing everything. Critical race theory basically is like everything is white supremacy. You know what I mean? If you cut your grass, that's fucking white supremacy. You know, if you speak proper English, that's white supremacy. If you fucking like to wear clothes, you know what I mean? Like, that's white supremacy. So everything is white supremacy. And what happens is that there's no stop to it. So if you like to eat meat, oh, that's killing animals. You know, that's white supremacy. If you like to own pets, if you got a dog or a cat, that's white supremacy. Because that's like slavery. You know what I mean? That's how it starts, and it just keeps fucking snowballing. You know? And, you know, anything you know, money, you know, that's white supremacy. You see what I'm saying? So don't want to go down that road, because once you start that snowball, it's almost impossible to stop. And the people that get hurt by that the fastest and the most is black people. Okay, so advanced second chance hiring to get rehabilitated citizens with criminal records back on the job. And he did say that he was going to open up the White House. He was going to push for full pardons for black people that have rehabilitated after they, you know, if they go to jail or prison and then they get out and they rehabilitate themselves, he was like, we're going to push for pardoning these people. So I imagine, if the vote is thick enough, I imagine that's what it's going to be. Like, he's going to be like, no, black people had to go through Jim Crow and this and that and the other. So yeah, they get that we ain't trying to be racist, but it's probably going to be like an affirmative action for pardoning. So, and this is just based on history of things that I've seen Trump do, and this so far. And I will leave. I'll put a link in the description for this, as well as I'll put a link. I'll put in the comment section. I'll pin it on the comment section. 20 things, and I stopped at 20. 20 things that he's done for the black community that is not on this paper, and he never fucking mentions, but it's there and it's definitive. So when you get into arguments with people that say, oh, well, Trump, all he's done is, the opportunity zones and the black colleges, universities, and low black unemployment. That's the same three things over and over. No, I'll give you 20. And these ain't little things. These ain't little baby things. These are big things. Prosperous black communities. Okay, so he let me jump to the more education opportunities. Education, African Americans can choose federal, state, and local community partnerships to close failing schools, to close failing schools, to replace with full school choice and education opportunity, to put American parents back in control over their children's futures. Increase child care tax credits and provide greater access to quality preschool. So even this is talking about more money, because if you didn't know, Trump doubled the child care tax from $600 per child to from $1,000 per child to $2,000 per child. He also doubled the Republicans also doubled the stimulus, because you remember when we had that stimulus from Obama, it was $600. He doubled it to $1,200 per person, and he said he even wanted more money the second go around. But the Democrats have been trying to throw in shit that don't have nothing to do with the coronavirus. They want to throw in other policies, and if they're not getting those policies, they're saying, well, we're not going to sign this deal so the American people can get money. They're holding up the stimulus packages. It's like, hey, sign the deal. All this money here is going towards, people, so they won't lose their homes, as well as, money. And the Democrats are saying, well, we'll sign it, but we want our state, we want New York to get some money, even though they've been fiscally unresponsible with their money, even though California has been fiscally irresponsible with its money, because they're allowing illegal immigrants to come to California, and then these illegal immigrants drain the system, because they're going to the doctors, they're competing for jobs, and they make it's real competitive. I mean, an illegal immigrant, we're not talking about Mexico, we're talking about people from South America, Guatemala, Honduras, Ecuador. These people come, they're bilingual for one, and then they don't have to pay taxes, right? They don't have to, they can opt out of paying taxes. They can opt out of even minimum wage. They can opt out of the health care that companies have to provide for their employees. They can opt out of sick days. They can opt out of, holidays. You know what I'm saying? All kind of things. So they make the American citizen, and they're not coming into the country they're not coming into the country taking, for the most part, middle class jobs. They're taking low income jobs, and blacks that live in the inner city, low income communities. They're taking these jobs. They're making blacks, for the most part, expendable more than any other demographic. They make a lot of Hispanics, um, American Hispanic Americans. They make them expendable too. That are citizens. They make them expendable too. But for the most part, you're going to have competition. Blacks compete with whites. Blacks compete with Asians. Blacks compete with Hispanics. And we're talking about Americans. And when you throw another demographic that's not American in there, and they're Hispanic as well, it's like a double competition. You know what I mean? So, this is education. Education African Americans can afford. So, continue to protect vital role in historically black colleges and universities. Spur innovation ecosystems by connecting minority institutions with the federal government. So here you go again. You're skipping over the Democrat-ran cities, or the grip on the Democrats, because right now you have to go through the Democrats to get your money. You see what I'm saying? And if you don't believe in their ideology, if you're not selling out, then they can just say, we're not giving you shit. We're going to give it to this person because we know that person is a sellout. You see what I'm saying? So now you're going straight to the federal government. All right? And this is why the Constitution is so important. The rule by law is so important. Because once it goes to the federal government, that's the highest, that's the supreme law of the land. And you don't want that fucking changed. You see what I'm saying? And so this is what Republicans stand for. They stand for the republic, which is based on the rule of law, not based on the rule of majority, which is the Democrats want democracy. I can't say this enough. People need to look up the definitions and terms and just look at and read about the Republican Party. Read about Republican values. Google search Republican values. That's all you got to do. And you'll be like, damn, this fucked my whole world up. I didn't know this. Just read Republican values. That's, the Republic is guaranteed to every state in the Union. Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. I got one right here. It's a liberal. It gives you a lot of liberty. This is the law of the land. This is the supreme law of the land. And look how thick it is. Now go pull one of your state laws books, and it'll be this thick. And that's just for criminal justice. Your civil justice will be like that thick too. And that's just this year's edition. And the reason why that is because the federal government is supposed to be small. They're supposed to give the freedom to the states. The states are supposed to make these minutia decisions, whether you can get married, if you're gay, whether you can get married in this state. It wasn't never meant for, if you want an abortion, okay, well, in this state, we'll allow abortion. In California and New York, we know if we get pregnant, we can go get an abortion there. You know what I'm saying? Like, funded by the government. And that's what Republicans don't want. They don't want it to be funded by the government. For the most part, when you talk about abortions. I don't believe in abortions. I don't want my tax dollars, my federal tax dollars paying for someone else's abortion. You know what I mean? Like, because that's like me supporting, elimination of a child, and especially if they're a black child. So, every state in this union is guaranteed a Republican form of government. Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution. All you got to do is read it, and you can Google it. You don't even have to have a book like I do. And so you say, well, a Republican form of government, not a Democratic form of government, not a Democrat form of government, a Republican form of government. So what is a Republican form of government? It's a separation of powers. Every state has it. Every state has a Supreme Court. Every state has a legislature, a state legislature, which is basically Congress. They have a House, and they basically have a Senate. You know, every state has it. So every state has a state legislature. Every state has a Supreme Court, and every state has a governor, which is essentially like the president or an executive. Every state has that, and every state has its own military. You know, that's what the National Guard is. So every state is basically like a little United States. You know, the United States or a little federal government. You know, it's a state government. Every state has its own health department. Every state has its own infectious disease control. You know what I mean? So that's why I laugh when people be like, "Oh, well, Trump should have did this and Trump did it." Man, you got 50 other states that's supposed to have stockpiles. You know what I mean? If the federal government is supposed to, the federal government is supposed to supplement. So if you kind of short, not every state has the same amount of National Guard troops. So if you need some National Guard help, then you ask the president, "Hey, can you help us out?" That was the thing with Hurricane Katrina. People were like, "Oh, well, George Bush did." When there's a hurricane, George Bush can't just go directly into Louisiana. He has to be fucking invited into Louisiana. And you see you see Kanye, he on the right team now, but you saw him when the Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005. "Oh, George Bush don't like black people." It wasn't up to George Bush. You see what I'm saying? The only way George Bush could have went into Louisiana if Louisiana was knowingly, if he knew Louisiana was knowingly putting, lives at risk. You know what I'm saying? If they was being knowingly negligent. But he have to wait on that fucking phone call. I mean, not wait on the call, but he has to wait on that permission, because he can call and say, "Hey, we need some help." "Oh, I think we got it." And when you find out you don't have enough troops, then you can say, "Hey, man, we ain't got enough troops. We thought we did. Can you send a couple of more thousand troops in here?" You know what I'm saying? Can you send, 10, 15,000 troops in here? And then, boom, there you have it. But you can't just fucking go into somebody's state like that. It's like, the same thing with these people that's riding into these various states. Like, he has to be invited. He just can't go into your state unless you're putting your citizens' lives in danger to the degree where he say, "Look, we have to do something. We just can't let American citizens die." That's the only way. See what I'm saying? But if he does that and jumps the gun and do it and shoots that shot too soon, it's going to be hell to pay the captain, and you just came out of an impeachment. So that's how the federal government works. The federal government is not even a state; it's a district. But back to this here. So we get towards the end. So prosperous black communities champion federal policy reforms to advance home ownership initiatives. Okay. Partner with local leaders in black communities to ensure maximum federal support, not state, not city. Federal support for neighborhood revitalization. Make Juneteenth a national holiday. Okay. And Martin Luther King is the only person that has his own fucking holiday. The only person that has his own holiday. Now he's going to talk about making Juneteenth a national holiday. Okay, cool. Prosecute the KKK and Antifa as terrorist organizations and make lynching a national hate crime. Okay, so I said this a while back, right? I was on the Pascal show, and I told him, because we were talking about racists or whatever, I told him, I said, "Look, I guarantee you that if Trump gets reelected and I guarantee you if black people get into the Republican Party, right, and Trump gets elected, I guarantee you they're going to get rid of these racists that's in the Republican Party. We know that they're in the Democrat Party. You know what I mean? Because a lot of them just moonlight as Republicans because they support Democrats, and those Democrats say, hey, look, this election year, come on out and say you support this person. Come on out and, now to be fair, yeah, there are some racist Republican politicians. I mean, when I say racist, I'm talking about overt racist. But there's a lot of Democrats, you know what I mean, that's moonlighting, like they for black people, but they policies is not for black people. You know what I mean? Like, they overt racist too, but because they Democrat, people say, oh, well, you can't be racist because you're a Democrat. And I'm of the mind, like, Tiger don't change his stripes. You can't convince me that you had a party for 150 years that that hated blacks, and then overnight in the 1960s, because keep in mind that there was a 1957 Civil Rights Act and a 1960 Civil Rights Act. Then Lyndon Johnson passed in 1964 and in 1968, in 1965 and in 1968. But when the 1960, just 4 years earlier, in the 57, Democrats were blocking trying to block these bills. Okay? So you mean to tell me that people that was racist for over 150 years, in 4 years, do a 180 and it flips the parties? The parties flip. You can't. I'm not stupid. You see what I'm saying? Their mode of operation flipped. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Their ways to win election, their platforms flipped, but the parties' ideologies stayed the same. Republicans want to keep the republic. They're on the defense, and the Democrats want to turn the republic into a democracy. That's it. You know what I mean? And it's up to you to find out what's the difference between a democracy and a republic, and why United States didn't start off as a democracy. We vote for senators now because they put in the 17th Amendment. You know what I mean? But before, people didn't vote for senators, and we wasn't going to the fucking polls like every couple of years. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was for the state legislatures to do. We weren't supposed to be getting drained every fucking couple of years, going to vote for this, voting for that, vote for that. That was for the states. You know what I mean? Same year that they did the 17th Amendment, it's the same year they started income tax, taking money out of your checks for income tax. Was the same. 1913 was the same year that they created the Federal Reserve. Same year they created the IRS, Federal Reserve, and fucking changed the Constitution to the 17th Amendment because they wanted to throw in democracy. You see what I'm saying? The United States, the people that's supposed to answer to the people is the people that's in the House, not the Senate. The House caters to all the little, nuances. So, getting until the end of this, favorable trade deals to bring back manufacturing jobs and help black contractors, farmers, and inventors and consumers. Defend religious liberty and African American churches that lift the conscience of our nation. Collaborate with cities and counties to address mental illness and substance abuse. So, that's not everything. I kind of breezed through it. So there's a couple of things that I missed. But yeah, that's the Platinum Plan. President Trump's pillars. So if you like it, hey, you like it. I mean, if you don't like it, then you don't like it. I only ask show me Biden's, because I ain't seen Biden's yet that specifically targets black people, because they just not going to do it. They're going to say minorities. They're going to say people of color. They might even say BIPOC. You know what I mean? Low income communities. That could be anybody. Because, there are white people, black people, Asian people, Hispanic people, Indian people live in low income communities. You know, everybody that's not, you know, a white male or a white female is a person of color nowadays. You know, even Jewish people that'll be like, you know, 1 minute they'll be like, hey, look, you know, I'm white, so I understand white privilege, you know what I mean? And we shouldn't do that. But then, you know, depending on what the situation is, they'll be like, hey, look, I ain't white, I'm Jewish. So, you know, oh, I guess you're a person of color. You know what I mean? Or I'm Muslim. Oh, I guess you're a person of color, which, you know, these religions, they're not a race, you know. But I digress. We going to get out of here. If you liked the video, thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, thumbs down. Like the content, please subscribe. Turn on the notification. And